Smartly Uneducated.
How about this? Welcome to Smartly Uneducated. I'm Ben.
And I'm Evan. Hope I sound all right.
And this episode is brought to you by Guinness.
Guinness.
Please sponsor us.
Hey, Carhartt, I need a new hat. Sponsor me.
We've been trying the Guinness route for a while. So
Okay.
let's go with that. So you randomly just brought up, and that's why I wanted to jump in the episode. You brought up electro gardening,
It's
electroculture.
It's called electroculture. So think of like lightning rods. They used to have them on all these churches and houses and buildings in the 1800s to produce electricity freely. These lightning rods would get struck by lightning, and then there'd be mercury in the bottom of these lightning rods that would then disperse the energy across the building for electricity and plumbing and pumps and whatnot. Then in like 1893, one of the last world fairs, Nikola Tesla and a bunch of other individuals were really promoting this sort of concept.
Yeah.
Along with weather vanes and something called electroculture.
Yeah.
So it has to do with vegetables, plants, and gardening, and subsidizing copper and pure mineral like items such as like gold and silver.
And you did already say that it's not like you're like electrifying the ground. It's a very low voltage.
So you don't even put any like power to it. You have no power to it. No power at all.
Yeah.
You just wrap a copper wire around a stick, put a little bit of antenna off the top of it, shove it in your dirt.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do.
And you already bring up Nikola Tesla?
I just briefly.
Oh, okay.
But so what this thing does, I know it's going to sound like hippy dippy and far fetched. It brings the energy and like the electricity that's already coming from Earth, because Earth is moving. Right?
Yeah, and Nikola Tesla proved that because there's electrical currents all around us in the air that we cannot see.
So there's a proven study that if you shove copper wires or copper poles in the ground, and then somebody else does it 100 miles away, you can call them directly and they can answer it. So if you have a phone attached to this pole, it'll reach to the other pole and you can talk to them on the phone. So they had wireless phones in like 1870.
Yeah. We should try this.
Yeah, I agree. I
wonder how much interference we would get doing this in like the suburbs.
So you wouldn't get much because there's not very many like copper antennas. It's all aluminum based and steel.
We should set one up and see how it works.
I've already have copper in my garden right now. It takes about 2 months to 3 months to do it. So you need to actually be a gardener. You need to water it, prune your stuff, treat it like it's a regular garden. Just don't put fertilizer down, like your synthetic Scott's fertilizer or thing like that, or any organic fertilizer.
Yeah.
Just use the copper wire. You don't need like a 6 foot one. A 6 foot pole of copper wiring.
Now I want to do an experiment. Now I want to do, because we have 2 garden beds out
So
back.
I've been really looking into this because it fascinated me. So a 6 foot tall copper wire pole will disperse 225 square feet of energy to promote healthy living and healthy growth in plants and animals.
Is there any way I can do a copper pull off my penis?
Yeah, so it's actually really good for humans. Yeah, it's actually really good for humans. So I don't know if you can look back at history and look up like copper clothing and copper like jewelry. The Egyptians and the Romans and Native Americans would wear copper jewelry and gold jewelry and silver jewelry, because these things produce on the same wavelength of energy as Earth does, and they produce blood flow better and better testosterone or estrogen.
Shit, I took out my eyebrow piercings. I should have just gotten some copper ones.
Or just pure silver, right? So you look at these rappers and all these like really wealthy individuals who are wearing all these crazy jewelry with covered in silver and gold. They don't know, but it's like actually making them happier and healthier by wearing them.
Now, but speaking of the gardens, though, I want to do an experiment now because I have 2 gardens in my backyard, and that need to be redone. So now I want to set up one in one garden, and I want to set up the copper one in the garden that is always the hardest to grow in, just because it
will make it better.
And I want to see the difference it does.
So I'm just doing it in my backyard. I just put it in the grass. I want to see if the grass.
It doesn't even have to be in the garden bed, does it?
No, it has to be near it. And animals are attracted to it. So your animals will go and lay by the copper antennas, the what they call the earth antennas. They'll go like lay by them because it's
So does it change anything if the ground's dried out?
no, it's fine. It actually will help retain water.
No shit.
Yeah.
I got big ass cracks that need filled, dude.
Yeah, it'll
Like-
help. And so I heard about it like 2 weeks ago, and I've been sort of researching and looking into it, trying to figure it out more and more and more. And it's really starting to come along to all you have to do is go to your local hardware store, Home Depot, Tractor Supply, go buy 12 gauge pure 99.9% copper wiring for $10 of 125 feet. Go get a stick in your backyard, wrap it like an inch apart, and do a little coil up the top, stick it in your ground. Just continue watering your yard or gardening like you normally would, and you'll have huge plants.
I want a big plant.
Hell yeah!
I need a big eggplant.
So there's
bro.
so there's like a whole group around this electroculture thing that I've been diving into, and like
Sick of my hot chili.
what?
I'm sick of my little hot chili pepper.
Yeah,
I want an eggplant.
oh, you don't want a habanero anymore? You want a jalapeno?
I want a squash. I want a squash, bro.
So like there's a guy who grows sunflowers, and he does it every year because he just likes sunflowers. And he did a batch of regular sunflowers and then one with electroculture. His electroculture sunflowers were 20 feet tall, and his regular ones were like 4 feet tall. They were enormous. There's photos, videos of the guy like, yeah, there's my antenna. There's that one over there. They're huge. And there's ones of video of people having like zucchinis the size of them.
Yeah.
And like store-bought zucchinis the size of your fucking hand.
Yeah.
So they banned it, or like I keep saying ban, it's probably the wrong term. They haberdashed it, or just like stigmatized. That's what I'm looking for. They stigmatized doing the electroculture because they made it seem as if it was fake.
Yeah.
Hippy dippy, psychic sort of shit.
Yeah.
When really Nikola Tesla and all these scientists in the time who were going to the World Fair were proving that it was working, which to me immediately, like, Nikola Tesla's a fucking genius.
Well, I know there is a theory about Nikola Tesla that when he discovered that there are electrical currents in the air and he was coming up with devices, because I don't think people realize the things that Nikola Tesla created and found and did, and other people stole his work.
Oh yeah.
Like for instance, Nikola Tesla was technically the first person to make an X-ray machine.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he didn't call it an X-ray. He called it something else, and he scanned his own foot with a boot on,
That's cool.
and it showed all of his bones and everything. The guy who ended up creating the X-ray, or getting founded under his name, he took that concept. He took what Tesla did and like changed one or two things, but the result is still the same.
And his name was X-Raythan?
X-ray. I don't know. I don't remember his name, but
Yeah.
the thing was that he's getting credit for it. It's like, well, no, he didn't actually invent it. Then Nikola Tesla did, and he did it like 10 years before that motherfucker, or 8 years before that guy. So it's like, oh, you know what I mean?
That's pretty standard for the society and American culture. I can't speak about European culture and the thievery that happened there, but I can speak about like the American culture and things of that. Where was Nikola Tesla American? I don't even remember.
I don't fucking know.
But
I highly doubt it.
but like,
I doubt it.
Like the thievery that happened so constantly was just, you did this thing. Oh, that's cool. Let me take it, make it my own, put my name on it.
Hey.
And now it's mine.
It was well known and documented that Edison was constantly sending goons, like basically hiring people to go and watch Tesla.
Yeah.
And try to steal his shit. Like, it's documented. He was trying to get his shit because Tesla was doing shit that was beyond anything Edison, like how they say Edison created light bulb. Well, we already know that's bullshit. We already know now in proper history that he actually stole the light bulb from someone else.
Man, I wish I had my Mac in front of me, my computer, so I
Yeah.
can look up some of this information. I don't know if I told it or talked about it on air or on wax, as I like to say. It's put it on the record, baby.
It's put on the record, dude.
That they would put like telephones around copper poles or gold poles, and 100 miles away they would put another one, and they can communicate via the phone through the copper wire, through the waves of energy to the other copper pole, and they can communicate wirelessly on phones. And like 1800, like 1850.
Yep.
So wireless technology has been around forever, and now they're like, here's Wi-Fi and all these EMFs to fucking. Do you believe that EMFs are fucking with you? Like Wi-Fi signals and electric magnetic fields?
I think they can, but I think it has to be up to a certain degree. I think it has to be so much frequency. Like it's kind of like being around radiation, right? That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
Because there is some truth to this. I know that if you're around certain electrical frequencies that are too high, it can fuck you up. It can disorient you. You can be delusional. Pretty much just, all, and things of that nature.
Yeah.
I'm sure that if you're around higher ones, then, you start getting fucked up even more. And then at that point, it turns into electrical current or some shit, like a real one, like a one that arcs and you see it, and then you're fucked because then you're fried.
I've heard stories of people getting hit by lightning and they teleport to another dimension and come back after the lightning has gone. A split second, they go somewhere else and come back.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, we have a guest who is ready to come on. We do have a guest.
Is he in? He's coming in?
Yes. Cyber Steve.
Cool. I want to show you something crazy on the internet that I saw the other day.
So let's cue the motherfucker in.
All right, cool. Let's get him in here.
Cue.
And we're back.
We're back, bro. We're here.
So electroculture in general is pretty cool, with the concept of it helping bring a electric.
Oh, okay. Let's bring our guest up to speed. Cyber Steve has joined us again.
Hi,
we have
Steven.
basically it's gonna be like a 30-minute guest presence because we only got like 30 minutes left. We'll make the most of it. So to catch you up to speed, we were talking about electroculture and gardening, and then that led on to basically Nikola Tesla. And then we were talking about Nikola Tesla and how people stole a bunch of his shit, and how he created the very first X-ray machine, but someone else took the credit for it because the guy who founded the X-ray machine came out with it like 10 years later when Nikola Tesla created an X-ray machine because he scanned his own fucking foot.
He
And
invented a lot of stuff.
That was a cool image.
Yeah. Okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
Hmm?
Hell yeah.
Yes, sir.
I have not seen the image. I'll have to look it up. He invented a lot of stuff. The poor man died at 86 in New York alone.
Didn't he die with pigeons? What is
He
like
got-
pet birds?
A coronary thrombosis, where his blood clots.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But yeah, he I know he got ripped off a lot in his life. Poor guy.
Yeah, so we were talking about that. This is a very impromptu podcast in a weird way. So we were talking about. So
In another subject,
well, hold on. There was something I wanted to say about Nikola Tesla. Okay, so basically, I believe he was taken out. I don't believe that because the moment he died, all of his shit
yeah,
disappeared.
the FBI got into the safes and took all his files and stole all his stuff. Like just they
And so did Edison. I believe Edison's men and Edison and his little posse were part of it as well.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah, if you look into it pretty deep, Edison and the government are very closely connected. And I believe that I don't know if he was taken out, but I do believe that he was very much on their radar. And like you said, he was 80 when he died?
86,
And then what year was this?
1943, I want to say.
That's incredible. They were probably just waiting for him to die and then just swoop in as soon as they got word of it. That's my opinion. That's my theory on that.
Yeah. I mean, fair. But bro was kicking it for being 80 something. Like bro was moving. It's not like he like slowed down. I think it's a very interesting thing also, just to segue into people being old. It's weird when you see old people now, because old people now are old people now, they are like when you get up in the 80s, a lot of people like can't really move around all that well. Like you see, look at old people, they like barely can walk down the street. They have so many fucking issues. But yet you go back in time like 80 years at this point, you can just go back 80 years. And when you see 80-year-olds walking around, you would see 80-year-olds walking around, climbing shit, moving around as if they're 60.
Yeah.
And it's I truly believe in the whole concept of it's like if you don't use it, you lose it. That's why I will never stop exercising. I will be that 60-year-old who still does fucking pull-ups.
You got to eat right too. You got to eat right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Fucking Jack in Box every night, bro. Like, let's go. That's not punching you. It's dope as fuck.
Hey, on a
I'm just kidding,
completely
it's
different
garbage.
note, I want the both of you to pull up your search browser of choice, maybe Bing, Google, DuckDuckGo.
And looking.
Pull it up, pull it up real quick.
Okay.
And type in 20K Dogman.
20K Dogman.
Yeah, Japanese Dogman. I'm sorry, 20K Japanese Dogman.
All right, let me move it right here. Actually, let me move him over here.
Those of you who are listening, you probably have already searched it. Ben's moving really slow, and or you already know what I'm talking about. Steven, have you
Dogman?
I'm done with the internet tonight.
20K Japanese Dogman?
Oh, Japanese Dogman.
Yeah, I'm finished. I'm done with the internet tonight.
This guy spent $20,000.
Is it images?
Images, yeah, to get a full-on border collie dog suit.
Oh my god, that's a person.
That's a man.
Get the fuck out of here.
And he walks around. There's a video of him walking around and him being interviewed. Could you imagine walking down the street like, that's a pretty dog? He says, hey, do you know where the grocery store is?
What? Get the fuck out of here. Let me, you know what? I'm YouTubing that shit. I want to see it. I want to see that. So,
dude, I'm just thinking of all the ways I could troll people if that was me in that dog suit, bro.
Is that the way that I can take a shit in public and not get in trouble?
Yeah, probably. If you don't get found out, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the same thing as taking a shit in public without the dog suit, as long as you don't get found out.
Oh, there it is. Oh, let me mute it.
So
Sorry.
is that corn in that dog's diet?
Okay, on a short. I'm watching it. What the fuck?
That didn't take long.
What the fuck?
He's 2 seconds in and I'm hearing him. What the fuck?
Okay, this is so retarded, dude. Japanese. You know what? It's not even about Japanese are do weird shit. I don't expect anything
the
weird.
furries are over here in America too.
I know. But you know what? Like Americans and modern Western women and men have taken this shit way too far.
Can you imagine when you spent $20,000 on?
Oh my god, he's playing with his toy. he's playing with his stuffed animal. I would shoot that man.
He wants to be a dog so bad.
I want to just like, dude, if I walked into a room and it was like all of a sudden I like wake up, I got kidnapped by the government or whomever, right? Like kind of like Squid Games type shit. Like only I didn't like willingly go there, you know what I mean? Get kidnapped and I could put in some fucked up situation to see what my reaction would be, and I'm like stuck in there and they won't, I'm a prisoner.
Okay.
And I see this motherfucker and I realize it's a man in the suit, because from a distance, if he's not moving and he just rotates his head, you would think it's a fucking dog.
A big dog. Yeah.
You'd think it's a big ass dog. But I can tell you right now, if I realized that was a person, I would go ravage. I would just savage. All my primal instincts would kick in. I'd be like, that thing's not a dog. I don't know what it is. I don't give a fuck if it's a costume. I don't know. I don't care.
He's gonna be like that woman on that airplane.
I'm
He's like, that motherfucker's not real. I can see Ben doing that.
The difference between me and that woman on that airplane is I wouldn't go, oh my god, this bitch ain't real. I would just start trying to murder it.
Huh.
That's what I would
Your
do.
first instinct is kill.
Fight or flight, motherfucker. I don't run away. I'm gonna fuck that bitch up.
Oh my god, it's an alien. I'm gonna kill it.
I'm gonna fuck it. Be the first guy to fuck a Martian.
Hell yeah, brother. What if they got big old alien titties?
3 tits, dude. Nice. 3 tits. Nice.
Do you think he takes that dog costume to the groomer? He's got to get his anal gland squeezed and his nails clipped.
You know,
I hate this conversation already.
Nikola Tesla did not want this for America.
Maybe. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and activate our video so you can see us as well. How about that? Would it be easier for you, Steven?
Oh, you can do whatever you want.
Do you care having video to see us, or do you?
No, I don't mind. Yeah, whatever you guys want to do.
Give it to you anyways. I was just teasing you. I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
I totally would have. So I had told Evan. So we were talking about that. This was a very impromptu podcast, so we were just talking about whatever kind of thing, just for shits and giggles. But I brought up the whole Congress thing with the alien UFO shit, and a whole bunch of nothing happened again.
Can you give us any names or companies? Yeah, in private.
Yeah, in private, bro.
Didn't he slip up and say Boeing at some point? Because I know I heard Boeing somewhere.
Yeah, one of the guys did. But
Yeah,
that's
so that's pretty much what we got.
A
I don't
Boeing
know. I
737.
still say the whole thing was in the right direction. I mean, when we they already just told us beforehand, before the Congress meeting, that they said that there's not going to be able to discuss a lot in a public setting
Stupid.
and a
What's the
lot of.
point of the meeting? What's the point?
I
Like,
probably just a show of good faith that they're going to take it serious. Like, you know,
faith.
well, here's the thing. Public meetings like that, in my opinion, are very important because now the entire United States knows that these guys met with Congress, and now we're actually expecting Congress to do something about it, and they want to get reelected. So,
See, I think it's all bullshit. I think it's all bullshit. I think this is all a dog and pony show. I really do.
for what
People who-
though?
When it comes to the UAPs, UFOs, aliens, the whole subject and it being in
Mhm.
Congress, I think it's all just a dog and pony show.
so
There's enough people asking, but the thing is that they have had this shit off the books. It's not even just off the books. It's not even really part of the government, honestly. It's a part of a government that doesn't exist. This shit went off the books. They talk about in what is it? The Blue Book.
Mhm.
They talk about how that shit they mention in there towards the end, like it's all off the books now. Like it doesn't even exist in any form of record. Like
I don't know.
so
Man.
it's like at this point, it's a part of the government that's not even the government anymore. They segregated away from it years ago from the actual United States government. It's all off the book shit.
A part of me hopes that they'll actually do something and actually have conversations.
I believe it's a deep nest of militarized.
But for me personally,
Shit.
I'm pretty sure everybody in the Congress already knows about UFOs and UAPs in general, right? Like they're up there in the higher echelon of society with all the information that we're not getting.
Yeah.
I think that they're getting so much pushback from citizens and civilians, like, hey, fighter pilots can't train properly because there's shit in the skies.
There's shit in the skies, dude.
And they're like, yeah, we'll talk about it, I guess. We'll just have a meeting and let you all watch what we're talking about.
But I will say this, Steven.
Cameras aren't on.
I will say, what was that?
The cameras are not on.
Oh no, they're on.
Oh, we are recording our video.
Yes, we're doing a separate recording of us, and I'm gonna put all of us
I
together.
was gonna get naked, dog.
Bro, just do it, bro. No one watches this shit. No one watches this. Peer pressure.
Peer pressure,
No
do
balls.
it.
Do it. So Steven, so I will say this. Like, I get what you're saying. Like, it's being
Well,
taught.
I'll tell you my opinion after of what I think's going on, but go ahead, please.
Yeah. I think that, yeah, they are talking about it. You kick the hornet's nest enough. There's going to be somebody up in some position somewhere that's part of the government and not part of some off the books thing that maybe has some form of leeway enough to maybe shake the nest a little bit. But at the same time, if this is stuff that they hold in such high regard, especially such advancements in technology, the things that they can do with these crafts and whatever technology that was embodied in them, I highly, 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 highly doubt they're gonna fucking even let that shit out.
Oh,
Unless we get a whistleblower, because that's another thing with the whistleblower law. I'll add, and then I'll let you take over,
Sure.
Steven.
Sure.
Is that the whistleblower law only works for people who abide by the laws. They don't. These people tend, from what I've gathered, and I've seen the people who are in possession of these crafts, they don't abide by the rules. Obviously, they're off the books. They do their own shit. They got their own budget. They do their own fucking thing. That's completely separate. It doesn't even exist in the realm of the United States government. So it's like, why would they adhere to the fucking law? They're already breaking a million fucking laws already. Like when it comes to like what they do to people and what they've done to people who have witnessed it, shit like that, who were potentially murdered for it, that we will never know. It's like, why would they even give a fuck? Like, you know what I mean? Like, they'll just sit back and go, these motherfuckers, they have no idea that like we don't care. Like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
I do.
so it's like, it's kind of like it goes in the narrative of like the whole gun control logic, right? Like, let's take away, like, let's put all these gun laws in place. Well, the only people who get affected by these gun laws are the people who abide by the laws. Criminals don't
Yeah.
abide by the laws. So it's like these whistleblower laws I find to be a complete fucking joke. I really
Well,
do. 'Cause that's the logic I have with it, right? So anyway,
okay, so wait, which laws exactly? Just out of curiosity, that's going with this whistleblower law that you think it's a joke.
All of it.
But what? Like, I'm not familiar with the laws. So like, what is the laws?
It's like so overall, I don't know the laws verbatim, like the new shit that they passed for the whistleblowers. I couldn't like regurgitate that out verbatim, but I can say it's basically to protect them for coming forward and telling the truth and revealing this information that everyone wants to know. I think you're looking it up right now, right?
I definitely am.
It's basically laws that are put in place to protect the whistleblower.
Well, I think most people know it's like, the law's in place to show that it's in place, that they're going to do something. But I think everybody knows that if you're going to do something like this and come forward with this information, a law is as good as a restraining order. It's not going to do much. They're going to try to help you the best they can, but there's a very big risk that you're going to get shot or killed at some point.
Well, it's like, look at it like the way I see it, just the gun control is a good way for me to use an analogy on this, right? Because it's like, okay, you have places where guns are prohibited. You're not supposed to be having a gun in there. But if let's say like a bank has rules to that, federal buildings have that rule, but people go in there armed anyways. They're like, like schools.
Well, of course.
Example, you're not supposed to have a gun at school. Well, we've had plenty of school shootings now, haven't we? I mean,
it's the same thing.
Yeah, like you're not supposed to be concealed carrying without a permit.
So the whistleblower,
but people conceal carry.
The Whistleblower Protection Act it forbids every state official and employee from retaliating or attempting to retaliate against any employee or applicant who speaks up about improper.
So the problem with that, and there's a big problem with that in this situation. Now, that would normally protect people in the government for smaller deals, and it would protect the victim from the employer, basically stating that, like, the employer, if they try to retaliate for the victim whistleblowing, they're going to get retaliated against by the government. So it's enough to keep those people in check. But something big like this, for somebody who doesn't give a shit about that, will go straight to murder. Whistleblower law means nothing.
Yeah.
Well, and on top of that, like just what they said, like no state officials, like bitch, the state officials ain't what you got to worry about. It's the people who run these programs and the people involved in it, and it's not state officials. You know what I mean?
So the last time you and I spoke, Ben, you used the word conspiracy, and I didn't like that. Like I'd rather us think of us as thinkers, people who just think.
Well, I know, right? But they've taken the word conspiracy and misconstrued it.
But in conjecture with a whistleblower, oftentimes I feel as if that has been overused in context. Like you could take Sean Ryan's podcast, for instance, a really fun podcast. It is heavily conservative, but it is still fun to listen to, where he has people who specifically call themselves whistleblowers and then give very little evidence, or like sometimes just I statements without any evidence.
Yeah, they wouldn't have the evidence to give besides witness accounts or eye accounts.
Who is stopping people from just saying, hey, go be a whistleblower and make some shit up?
I know, and there's also the misinformation part of this too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a whole.
I think it's very easy for somebody to be like, one of these black suit organizations to be like, hey, you're no longer going to be Gregory Bartholomew, you're going to be Stephen Greer, and now you're going to go and talk about all this whistleblower shit. And then misdirect and change. I know we're getting into fringe thought, but it's just like, there has to be a way to prove things. And if they're not coming with documentation, proven evidence, employment histories, things like that, then I don't listen to them by any means.
I think it's very simple. Like personally, I like to keep this whole thing as simple as possible. And that's the first time I've heard of this. The intelligence officer was named David Grush, I think it was.
Yeah.
Is that right? David Grush?
Yeah.
That's the first time I've heard him come forward with anything, and I think he just came out like a month ago, so maybe this is he is very, very new to coming out with information. I'm not sure about him yet, but the claims that he says he has the locations, the companies, the people involved.
Fucking say it. Just put the fuck out there. You know what I mean? That shit annoys me.
Well, I think he's trying to. He's doing it. The problem is that, like, certain people in the government that are blocking him along the way, and he stated that in the very beginning. Did y'all watch the whole 2 hours of the thing?
Dude, if he were to reach out, he has a lifeline. If he were to reach out to Joe fucking Rogan and go, yo, dude.
Well, I think this is why he.
Because if I try to make an account, they're just going to take it down, and no one's going to pay attention to a fake account where I make up a fake name. People are just going to ignore it, right? Because he's not going to have any followers, nothing.
Dude, come on our podcast.
Come on our podcast, please. We have guns. We'll protect ourselves. Unless they have like a microwave gun, then we're fucked. Like, or the hard.
But I still think it's a lot more simple than what it's all trying to be. I think this is like a real thing. He does have real information, and I think that Congress, most people don't know about it. And I think it's a combination of private companies and governments working together. Very small group of people, but it's been set up in such a way since the 40s that with Project Blue Book, and since the first,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, since the 40s and then Project Blue Book, I think what I'm getting at is I think since they found the very first UFO, if he's claiming everything, which was the 30s, he says, there's a lot of time between the 30s and now to slowly incorporate these projects within the government, realizing the government realizing they're way over their heads with the technology, start hiring very high or very rich private corporations to help them work on this. And then over like the last almost 100 years now since our first one, that's a lot of time to figure out ways to manipulate the books in the government, reach out to the right people, silence the right people. And the next thing you know, you have a black book project that nobody knows about except for a very small compartmentalized of the government. They don't speak about it to anybody else. And that's where your missing funds from the Pentagon come from. So I think that's what's happening. And I think it's simple. It's just that simple.
Yeah, I agree.
It is simple, but at the same time, my personal opinion, I don't think it's exactly that way. Because one, so I read what was his name? The guy who did Project Blue Book.
Dr. Seuss.
Not Dr. Seuss. Dr. Hynek.
Oh.
Alan Hynek, yeah.
Hynek. So he wrote a biography before he passed away. Because he's dead now. I believe he's dead.
I'm sure he's dead.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's dead now. But he wrote a thing pretty much doing a whole tell-all. Pretty much just saying, like, listen, when Blue Book happened and I took it over, because he was like the second person involved with it, or he was,
I'm not
for
sure.
the majority of it was him. He said blatantly from the get-go that his whole role was to disprove. It was never to see if there's any truth to it. The whole point was to disprove it. It was to pretty much disprove every single case of a UFO, UAP abduction, because he even did abduction claims, like the works. But the thing is, he says in his like biographies, like memoirs, did he put in this book before he died, that pretty much by the end of everything, he said that, there are UFOs, like there's shit, like his personal opinion because he got to go invest these cases, go to ground zero of all these things, speak with these witnesses and the people who experienced these things firsthand. And he said, yes, there was like, basically he referenced like a bunch of cases where it was like, there's no fucking explanation, like at all. And in fact, their stories lined out with other people's stories and they did not know each other. He was vetting people, like him and his whole department and people who assisted him, like behind the curtain, like they vetted these people. They did not know, these witnesses did not know each other. They all saw the same shit, described the exact same shit, all the way down to like certain specified cases where basically like there was the one with this guy who was like a scout leader or scout master or something like that. Basically, he was a scout guy and he like took kids out scouting and shit like that. And there was a craft, a saucer that had landed. They watched a saucer like have trouble, like it was coming in acting all wonky, and like laid down in this field. And he immediately like drove off the beaten path. He didn't realize what it was 100% at first because he didn't get a 100% good look at it. But by the time he got to it, it was a metallic shaped or a metallic looking craft that was somewhat glowing around the edges, and it was a disc shape, and it was like a perfect like a frisbee, and then you take another frisbee and turn it upside down and put them together. So there was no like dome. It was just like a disc, like an oval shaped disc, and it was in this field, and it was making this funky ass noise, like not the typical noise you hear where it's like a hum.
Yeah.
It was obviously having some form of trouble, like maybe mechanical issue. Who fucking knows? Who knows how they actually operate, right? And he tried to, when he approached it, all of his hair, because he had like longer hair, like down to like his shoulders, right? Because this is in like the 70s or some shit, or early 80s.
Oh yeah.
And
Free love.
his
baby.
hair completely stood up, like every hair on his body, just like static, just started standing out everywhere. All this stuff. Anyways, there was this weird glowing, like a residue of a liquid coming off of it that was down like on the ground and speckle everywhere, like it had leaked out of it as it was going down, and then it stopped making that noise after a little bit, and then it started rotating because he never got close enough to it. He was just approaching it from like 100 yards away. He was in this clearing, and then it took off and it left. It stopped, like it stopped making the wire, like the weird fucked up noise. Went back to a hum slowly, and then it started doing its spinning thing, and it did this slow rotation, and it lifted up, and then it turned sideways like this. So now the frisbee is on its side, so it's going long ways vertically, and then it flies away vertically, like as if like imagine a frisbee when you throw it, instead of it gliding horizontally,
you threw it tomahawk style.
You threw it no, it was going like this, like as if
I can't see your hands, but I want to like. Are you talking like? Is it going like you said? It when it like instead of going like this, it flipped like this and went straight up.
No, it flipped like that, but it moved. Imagine holding a dinner plate in front of your face,
and
like
pushing it forward.
and pushing it forward, like both hands are on either side of the dinner plate. Yeah, just like that.
Like just like going like this, like
Yeah,
it's just like on its side. Yeah,
yeah, like belly first.
Away. I will say I don't know how long ago that was discovered, or like just kind of like, but I realized that very recently about how just from multiple interviews and documentaries that like, you know, when you see UFOs, you see them like rise up off the ground like this, and they kind of like just take off like that. And while I've seen videos where I guess they do that, but I think like now that we have better video of them up close, you can clearly see in multiple UFO videos where they do flip on their side and they aim. Yeah, and then they just aim and go like this. So it's not flat. They just flip and then they go.
Like, so his story got corroborated by the 2000s, because those those videos that are surfacing that are real UFO videos, that's exactly what he was describing back in the 70s. This witnessed it.
So if I'm not mistaken, they have figured out how to, they figured out the equation and how to manipulate gravity in the way to be able to use it to propel us.
If it is gravity.
Correct. So the way that it would have to be is that you have to be sitting like a wave, like on like a surfer. And you can't go straight through that wave. You have to ride the gravitational wave.
But you also see videos of them rotating like a disc, completely doing a somersault.
So that's what I mean.
At random times.
So like the disc would have to be horizontal, and then to ride the gravitational wave that they're forming behind them, they would have to ride it, literally just ride it, you know? So that would explain why they have to go vertical.
So the reason I brought that up, though, was because Alan Hynek referenced these things and saying, like, yes, like, I believe that UFOs exist. I believe that, like, they are not of terrestrial origin. Like, that's literally what he says in his like biography before he dies. And he was like, no, like I was the head of this program. Like, I was the guy going out there. I did all these things. And I was originally I was informed, like, his goal, because he was, military. They're like, you're going to disprove all these. Like pretty much, even if he came back and said, hey, there's some truth to this, they would go, check it again.
I know we briefly touched on.
And I know exactly what he did too, to deal with that.
Well, what did he do?
Well,
no, in order, like, I remember they were putting pressure on him to discredit all of these, because he said there was about, what was it? He did like 1,000, and I think he disproved like 600. But he said the thing that was really strange was that there's 318 cases that he couldn't disprove, and that not only could he not disprove it, but there was always some weird element. So the government pressured him to, or superiors pressured him to,
Yeah.
you need to disprove these last ones. Like you can't just say that there's evidence or truth to it. So instead, he just put like inconclusive.
Yep.
Interesting.
And then, so the reason I referenced all this at the heart of it was because he has mentioned that basically these whatever, because I know that you were saying, Stephen, that like your personal opinion of like how it happened, like it just slowly segregated itself away over time, like from the
I wouldn't say slowly. I'll say it's probably more rapidly, but I think they just got very good at keeping it that way, and they kept up with like the modern times.
Are you referring to like the history of it, like the manipulating the history? Is that what you're referring to?
It's sort of, it'll go with that, but what I'm referring to is that like what I'm saying in general when I was just referring to that is like I believe it's real, and I believe that this guy David Grush, he's kind of a weird character, kind of like sketchy in my opinion, but I do believe the documents or what he's talking about is real. Now, whether he has those documents
that's
and where,
another.
it's a whole nother thing. But if he's saying that, I don't think he's going to go in front of all of Congress with nothing, unless he's absolutely batshit insane. But he's been vetted. He's has intelligence clearance and all that stuff. He's seen shit apparently. So if he has these locations, if he has these people and companies, they're under pressure now.
Yeah.
Whatever happens.
The thing is that what I was trying to get at with Alan Hynek is that he basically at one moment basically made it clear that there is a section of the government that's not the government, blatantly. In his, like, you should read his biography, like his memoir stuff. He basically says it at one point, like saying that like they segregated that shit off quick after like the Roswell incident was a big one. Like ever since that moment, everything went under lock and key, and then all of a sudden it wasn't even under lock and key because they didn't have to put it under lock and key. They just removed it.
Yeah.
And it just disappeared. And there was certain individuals who are involved, who are of very high placement, like with military and also like public office at the time.
Isn't it referred to Black Book or whatever?
Yeah, Black Book projects. Yeah. And they moved that shit, and the Black Book projects, basically, from what I understand from diving into the Gateway experience and shit like that, the Black Book and then it's like the Montauk Project, all that stuff. Those people think the Montauk Project was done by the CIA. It wasn't.
No.
It was done by unknown people. This CIA is known. These people are not CIA. These people are not FBI. These people are not recon Marines. These people aren't Navy SEALs. These people just don't fucking exist. They are the Men in Black. When people talk about the Men in Black, I personally think that if there was a literal translation for the whole occurrence of Men in Black, I really believe it's members of these Black Book projects. Because
I completely agree with you on this.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree with you on this, and I kind of like, and that's what I was kind of getting at. And I think we're all kind of like dancing around like the same like topic and issue with this. Yeah. And like I think it is. I think it's a Black project that they're working on, but I think it's mostly probably in modern times. I would assume that this probably got taken off the books 20, 30 years ago, and it's just mostly been a private funded project. But I think what they're doing is that they have government officials involved, like the higher government officials. People that we know probably are involved, but have never said anything. And what they're probably doing is manipulating, government funding books and redirecting it to these programs. And the government probably has no clue about it. And that's why all this money goes missing.
Yeah. It was basically like he was talking about, like basically around the mid 50s. It wasn't like something where, over time or over a course of 30 years. No, like there was a decision made to pretty much go, no, we are capitalizing on this. We're going to take this. We're going to do our experiments. We're going to do our stuff. Like, and they completely removed themselves. Like over time, I will agree with you that over time, the government became less and less aware of them because the people who did know about the Black Book projects died off, right? Who were at the time. But I truly think that the way it looks, at least, that's where my opinion is that just from the way it looks more like, realistically, they moved out and out and out at one moment. And then the people who did know about them and did know about these off-the-book projects were only people who were alive at that time. And then they passed away, right? They died because they were already in their 50s or 60s. and then they passed, and that was in like the early, somewhere in the 50s. So by the 70s, they're already dead, more than likely. And they became so segregated through these set up channels for these black book projects. And I think it's like deep. I don't even think it has anything to do with government. I think it's like a government inside of a government that's connected to other governments, kind of like a one world government type. You could say that,
Man,
but
you keep going back to the one world government.
think about it. The Federal Reserve has their fucking fingers in every single fucking country in the world. It's not just America, because the Federal Reserve name is a joke, because it was just a guise to make people think it had to do with America. It has nothing to do with America. It's its own private entity, and they govern the entire fucking world financially. And where else are people going to get those kinds of things? You know what I mean? I believe that there are a certain group of people, you can call them elitists, whatever, but it's blatantly obvious that there are interconnections that are completely off the book, that are completely non-existent in the public eye, of certain key individuals all across the globe, like a fucking, it's like a vein structure. Look at your veins in your body. Think about it like that. Like, you don't see your fucking veins, but they're there. They're doing with shit that will be happening.
So I mean, even if that is true, this quote unquote one world government, the Black Book project.
We're down to 2 minutes.
Let's say that all that is true, right? How are they hiding so well with all this?
That's the thing I'm having problem with, because that lot of a project, if you're going to fool UFOs, to leave a zero paper trail, because you're going to need you need manpower, you're going to need materials, you're going to need, I mean, just like even the location where it would be, it's like you need like like there's so many things that's so many people that have to be involved.
You're going to hate me for this.
Go ahead.
But I think it's easily done.
Child trafficking?
Fuck yeah. That's what it is. No, I think it's easily done.
I'd like to hear how.
Think about it like this. We went to the fucking moon, right?
Yes.
All of a sudden, we just completely stopped space exploration after that. Like, just full halt. We just did something amazing. I'm not bringing up the moon saying there's a base on the moon or anything. I'm using it as an example to build up on this. We went to the moon, all of a sudden, boom, we're not going to the moon anymore. We literally climbed that pinnacle, all of a sudden, now we're just going to stop? That makes no fucking sense. And then what? There are so many, there is proof. There are documents that prove that they were building literally structures deep inside mountains that now no longer exist, apparently. Never existed.
How does this tie in with?
I think it's so easily to hide especially they're not a massive high in numbers group.
But who's building these sites?
I believe the sites were already built. I believe the sites were 100% already built. People would never fucking know about them.
Who's working there? They have to have janitors.
I think
right? they have to.
I'm sure that the same people who do the shit have to do the cleaning too. I think it's when you get brought in, it's kind of like when you, how do I put this? It's kind of like when you
join a cult or a religion, or
I wouldn't call it that, but I would call it as like let's use a elementary example, right? And so that way you guys use your imagination to build upon it.
Thanks.
The thing of Skull and Bones, right? The thing that every president in the United States, whoever was a president, was a part of, right? You have a little society. You get into that. It's a very few in number, very constricted. No one knew about Skull and Bones until the past like fucking 20 years. No one talked about it. That's how well they were able to contain it. So imagine taking that to the 10th level, where there's some really serious implications. There's some real strenuous shit. They vet these people. They bring them in. They basically, when a lot of these individuals who are hard rooted into this type of organization, I can only imagine that one, you're not going to have any wife and kids. You're not going to, so like you're the only one left in your name. They probably seek out individuals and recruit them in over, like, not a lot. They probably do it in increments. That way it keeps less on the radar. I guarantee they talk about Men in Black when they show up, how they have no thumbprints, right? Because they've tried to do forensics on cases like that where Men in Black showed up causing a problem for somebody. like intimidating fear, all that shit, right? Because they witnessed the UFO. And then when the local sheriffs try to get prints, there is no fucking, we're literally a smudge where they held a glass or put their hand on something, but literally no actual significant fingerprint, like nothing. It's if they didn't have one, like it was torched off, like they had pure flat skin. There was no fingerprint detail, nothing. I believe these people are completely removed. I think it's a slow increment process, and there's people crazy enough to do it because I would do it. And the fact that I know I would do it, they would go and find someone smarter than me, more capable than me. And then I guarantee there's someone like that who would do it just as much as me, who would want to do it.
I would do it.
You know what I mean?
I still think that's so hard to believe though, because I mean
How
that
is
would.
it talking about aliens being real, and we can't think that this wouldn't happen.
I'm not saying that like people wouldn't want to attempt something like that, but I still think that's so many levels to have to dive through to keep this a secret from only having like what, 2 significant people come out over the last 80 years, Bob Lazar, now this guy, David Crush.
Yeah, the reason why some of these whistleblowers happen, like Bob Lazar was a fluke. I think Bob Lazar said it perfectly, that they ran into a roadblock. They couldn't figure shit out. They have all the best minds that they have recruited themselves that are part of their program, their institute, their group, and they can't figure it. They made no headway for several years. It could be 10 years, 20 years. They've been stuck, and they're like, okay, we have to figure out how to make these things work. We got to figure out how this fucking weird orb thing, sphere works. Let's start looking outwards. And so that's why Bob Lazar had strict stipulations. He couldn't do this. He couldn't do that. He was completely funneled into one thing. Everything was compartmentalized. So he had blinders on. He was not able to see anything else because they're bringing in someone from the outside. Now that backfired on them. Have we had another Bob Lazar? No.
But the problem, well, I mean, we haven't had a Bob Lazar, but I know for a fact Bob Lazar said, and he stated multiple people, and I remember him mentioning some guy named Barry that he worked with.
Yeah, and he was a full-time employee with them.
Right, and he had a family.
If that was true, that guy could.
No, that's why he said he didn't want to go on camera. He says, "I'm not going to do this to my wife and kids and family." He's like, "Please leave me alone."
I know. That's back in the 80s, though. They probably changed their. I would be surprised. I'm making the point that they learn from their mistakes. I would.
I mean, maybe so, but I still think it's more believable just to have a compartmentalized thing from like maybe Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and a small government, and then just funneling taxpayers' money because we lose a lot of fucking money. You think Lockheed Martin's involved?
Where's the UFOs, Lockheed Martin?
So, Stephen, I was going to say as well that the Lockheed Martin has a lot to do with it. We had a beer spillage, my boy.
I don't even. What happened?
I just spilled my beer.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think. Fuck, what was I going to say?
Lockheed Martin.
So there was a whistleblower that spoke about UFOs being used in catastrophic weather incidents, think earthquakes, tsunamis, things like that, where they would bring a UFO in and traffic children to far off distant places.
What the fuck?
Yes. So if that's even close to true, that they could be using those children and those individuals to go into these black book projects, these black book companies being stolen away. I think we're going to leave it at that, though. Go get yourself a dog costume for 20 grand.
Smartly uneducated.